An Edwards type air pump has A. No valves, B. 2 sets of valves, C. 3 sets of valves, D. 1 set of valve. The answer is D. 1 set of valve. How does viscosity of a fluid being pumped affect the operation of a spur gear pump? A. The viscosity of fluid is relatively not important in pump operation. B. The pump can only be used for fluids of high viscosity. C. Leak in a gasket on the suction side of the pump. D. The slide valve of one cylinder is controlled by the piston rod of the other cylinder. The answer is A. The viscosity of fluid is relatively not important in pump operation. The pump efficiency may be lost as a result of A. Air entering the pump through a pinhole leak in the discharge valve. B. Leak in a gasket on the suction side of the pump. C. Both slide valves operate simultaneously. D. None of the above. The answer is B. Leak in a gasket on the suction side of the pump. Positive displacement. Helical gear pumps are well suited for pumping oil because A. They are essentially self-priming and produce high suction lift. B. These pumps are designed with extreme tooth angles. C. Leak in a gasket on the suction side of the pump. D. None of the above. The answer is A. They are essentially self-priming and produce high suction lift. In a duplex reciprocating pump, A. The slide valve of one cylinder is controlled by the piston rod of the other cylinder. B. Both slide valves operate simultaneously. C. The viscosity of fluid is relatively not important in pump operation. D. None of the above. The answer is A. The slide valve of one cylinder is controlled by the piston rod of the other cylinder. 56. The total length of stroke in a reciprocating steam pump is adjusted by A. Twisting the stay rod in a clockwise direction. B. Changing the setting of the tappet collars on the pilot valve operating rod. C. The slide valve of one cylinder is controlled by the piston rod of the other cylinder. D. The viscosity of fluid is relatively not important in pump operation. The answer is B. Changing the setting of the tappet collars on the pilot valve operating rod. Sealing lines provide sealing liquid to flow to the stuffing box of a centrifugal pump. A. To prevent seawater leakage to stuffing box. B. To cool the shaft. C. Eliminate fuel detonation. D. None of the above. The answer is B. To cool the shaft. Pump on board ship is /are driven by A/N. 1. Steam 2, electric motor 3, engine. A1 only. B2 only. C3 only. D1, 2, and 3. The answer is D1, 2, and 3. The type of pump used in the steering gear of modern ship is A. Vane, B. Gear, C. Centrifugal, D. All of these. The answer is A. Vane. A quick closing valve is located in the machinery space in A. Fuel tank, B. Pump suction, C. Gear, D. Valve. The answer is A. Fuel tank. An air vent of fuel oils tanks is located in the A. Weather deck, B. Steering deck, C. Pump room, D. Engine room. The answer is A. Weather deck. The pump that lacks priming capacity is the A. Gear pump, B. Vane pumps, C. Centrifugal pump, D. All of these. The answer is C. Centrifugal pump. A marine pump that is used in transferring fuel oil is the A. Centrifugal pump, B. Rotary pump, C. Reciprocating pump, D. Gear pump. The answer is B. Rotary pump. A pump that is usually used to transfer engine room bilges is the A. Reciprocating, B. Gear, C. Centrifugal, D. Rotary. The answer is A. Reciprocating. Used to reduce cargo pump leakage to the pump room bilge of a tanker ship is the A. Flinger rings, B. Clipper seals, C. Mechanical seals, D. Centrifugal pump. The answer is C. Mechanical seals. Increase internal leakage, in addition to poor hydraulic system response and inadequate lubrication, is a result of A. Low hydraulic oil viscosity, B. Broken directional control valve springs, C. Low pressure pump shaft casing, D. Insufficient load. The answer is A. Low hydraulic oil viscosity. When normal operating pressure is applied to hydraulic oil in high pressure system, oil A. Viscosity will decrease, B. Volume will increase, C. Volume will decrease, D. Viscosity will increase. The answer is C. Volume will decrease. Which of the listed hydraulic components could an O-ring seal is satisfactory used in providing a seal? A. Low pressure pump shaft casing, B. Relief valve spool, C. High pressure pump shaft casing, D. Insufficient load. The answer is B. Relief valve spool. A control valve installed in a hydraulic system to manipulate the reversal of fluid flow is called A. Directional control valve, B. Regenerative valve, C. Relief valve, D. None of the above. The answer is A. Directional control valve. Energy losses occurring in hydraulic system are ultimately absorbed by the A. Hydraulic piping flexibility, B. Atmosphere as heat, C. Relief valve spool, D. None of the above. The answer is B. Atmosphere as heat. Purging air from a hydraulic oil system is necessary when A. The system has been idle for a long period, B. The system has been drained and filled with new oil, C. The slide valve of one cylinder is controlled by the piston rod of the other cylinder, D. The pump can only be used for fluids of high viscosity. The answer is B. The system has been drained and filled with new oil. What causes overheating of a hydraulic pump? A. Insufficient load, B. Excessive internal slippage in the pump, C. Incorrect fluid viscosity, D. None of the above. The answer is B. Excessive internal slippage in the pump. Cavitations in hydraulic pump operation and can be caused by A. Excessive discharge pressure from the pump, B. Clogged suction strainers in the reservoir, C. Incorrect fluid viscosity, D. Continued slow circulation of the oil. The answer is B. Clogged suction strainers in the reservoir. The result of overheating of a hydraulic system may be A. Continued slow circulation of the oil. B. Incorrect fluid viscosity. C. Insufficient load. D. Excessive discharge pressure from the pump. The answer is B. Incorrect fluid viscosity. A valve that is not considered a hydraulic system direction control valve is the A. Unloading valve. B. 3-position valve. C. Sequencing valve. D. Spring control valve. The answer is A. Unloading valve. A. The device that is considered as hydraulic system direction control valve is the A. Sequencing valve. B. Unloading valve. C. 3-position valve. D. Spring control valve. The answer is C. 3-position valve. The component that is used to thoroughly segregate small particle contamination from hydraulic fluid is A. Separator. B. Strainer. C. Filter. D. All of the given. The answer is C. Filter. Almost all solenoid valves are actuated by A. An electromagnet. B. Pump. C. A spring. D. None of the above. The answer is A. An electromagnet. Purpose of restoration valve installed in a hydraulic hatch cover system is to A. Control the speed of hatch cover movement. B. Restrict oil supply to hatch cover not in use. C. Continued slow circulation of the oil. D. Excessive discharge pressure from the pump. The answer is A. Control the speed of hatch cover movement. Internal bypass line is provided in some hydraulic system suction strainers to help reduce the possibility of A. Pump cavitations. B. Incorrect fluid viscosity. C. Aeration of the oil. D. Insufficient load. The answer is A. Pump cavitations. The first step to be done when securing a centrifugal distillate pump is to A. Stop the pump. B. Pump cavitations. C. Close the discharge valves. D. Incorrect fluid viscosity. The answer is C. Close the discharge valves. The statement that is true in starting centrifugal pumps is A. They should be started with the discharge valve closed. B. They should be started with the suction valve closed. C. The slide valve of one cylinder is controlled by the piston rod of the other cylinder. D. The viscosity of fluid is relatively not important in pump operation. The answer is A. They should be started with the discharge valve closed. Reduced capacity with vibration and noise at the centrifugal pump suction due to vapor pockets in the fluid being pumped is caused by A. Cavitation. B. Incorrect fluid viscosity. C. Steam knock. D. Aeration of the oil. The answer is A. Cavitation. The corrective action you should do if a centrifugal pump delivers insufficient discharge pressure due to worn wearing rings is to A. Replace the rings. B. Replace pump. C. Replace the rings and impeller. D. None of the above. The answer is A. Replace the rings. What is the minimum permissible flash point of hydraulic fluid in a system that operates at 250 psi? A. 215 degrees Fahrenheit. B. 415 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 315 degrees Fahrenheit. D. 11 degrees Fahrenheit. The answer is C. 315 degrees Fahrenheit. The type of bearing is installed on the main generating set is A. Sleeve. B. Thrust. C. Roller. D. Valve. The answer is A. Sleeve. The heat value of fuel oil is determined by the use of A. Hydrometer. B. Calorifier. C. Calorimeter. D. Ammeter. The answer is C. Calorimeter. In shipboard application, which of the listed sealing device is most similar to an O-ring? A. Quad ring. B. V-ring. C. Cap ring. D. Flinger ring. The answer is A. Quad ring. In setting a divider to the proper radius, you should use A. Micrometer. B. Vernier caliper. C. Scale. D. Hydrometer. The answer is C. Scale. To drill a hole in round stock perpendicular to the axis of the piece, the stock should be mounted in A. Morse sleeve. B. V-block. C. C-clamp. D. Scale. The answer is B. V-block. A standard taper pipe thread has a taper of A. 1/4 inch per foot. B. 1/2 inch per foot. C. 3/4 inch per foot. D. 1 inch per foot. The answer is C. 3/4 inch per foot. Correct screw thread nomenclature. Pitch is the A. Distance between corresponding point on adjacent threads. B. Angle of taper formed by the center line of the screw and crest of the thread. C. Control the speed of hatch cover movement. D. Restrict oil supply to hatch cover not in use. The answer is A. Distance between corresponding point on adjacent threads. The three sets of hard taps are A. Taper, plug, and finish. B. Short, medium and long. C. Taper, plug, and bottom. D. Starting, through and finishing. The answer is C. Taper, plug, and bottom. Round, split dies are usually adjustable to A. Allow threading on oversized stock. B. Control the diameter of thread cut. C. Allow movement in other direction. D. Allow a restricted fluid in one direction only. The answer is B. Control the diameter of thread cut. Tool for cutting external pipe thread is called pipe. A. Cutter. B. Stock and die. C. Hacksaw and blade. D. All of the above. The answer is B. Stock and die. The process used to bring a hole to finished size with a high accuracy is A. Reaming. B. Cut. C. Drilling. D. None of the above. The answer is A. Reaming. For mild steel and general work, the correct angle of a drill point is A. 29 degrees, B. 118 degrees, C. 90 degrees, D. 180 degrees. The answer is B. 118 degrees. To remove a taper shank drill from the drill press spindle is by using A. Vice grip, B. drill drip, C. leather mallet, D. lathe. The answer is B. drill drip. Increasing the feed pressure on a drill as the drill point begins to break through the bottom of the workpiece will cause the drill to A. form a tapered hole in the bottom of the workpiece, B. dig into the workpiece and tend to whirl around, C. allow threading on oversized stock, D. control the speed of hatch cover movement. The answer is B. dig into the workpiece and tend to whirl around. In cutting angular iron and heavy pipe with a hand hacksaw, a better blade to be used is A. 14 teeth per inch, B. 24 teeth per inch, C. 18 teeth per inch, D. 30 teeth per inch. The answer is B. 24 teeth per inch.